Gilles de Rais, Scene 6, Take 14-5, Action.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the History and Mystery channel. I'm your host, Chronicler, and I want you to like and subscribe. Now that you've done that, I want to delve into a story that's filled with wars, devils, demons, and glory. Gilles de Rais was a war hero and the right-hand man of Joan of Arc, but he also was an occult child murderer that tried to sell his soul to the devil. I divided this video into 5 parts, and those parts are: what kind of an upbringing did he have? What did he do during his military career? How was the relationship between Joan of Arc and Gilles de Rais? Why was he called the devil worshipping baron? And the last part we will talk about Gilles' arrest and trial. Gilles de Rais was born in the Black Tower of his family castle called Champtocé-sur-Loire in the year 1405. Thanks to the family lineage of his father's side, Gilles was born into one of the oldest and most distinguished noble families of France, called the House of Montmorency-Laval, which was founded in the year 997. To make it even more fancy, his mother was a member of the wealthy House of Craon. Now that we know where he came from, let's take a better look at his early life, because Gilles de Rais' early life would be marked by a great tragedy. In the year 1415, when Gilles was just 10 years old, he would lose both of his parents. His father, Guy de Laval, got killed by a boar during a hunting party, and his mother, Marie de Craon, died in the same year, but her cause of death remains a mystery. Now that Gilles de Rais became an orphan, his grandfather, Jean de Craon, adopted Gilles and his brother René. But the grandfather didn't do this out of love, but for the potential marriages he could set up. His grandfather wanted to make their family the richest and most powerful in France. He tried to do this by marrying his grandson, Gilles, into a wealthy family. The first time he tried to do this was when Gilles was just 12 years old. There was only one small problem. His wife-to-be was only 4 years old, so the parents politely declined the marriage proposal. Growing up as a nobleman during the 100-Year War meant that you were obligated to get military training and combat training. Thanks to his training, Gilles de Rais was able to rescue the Duke of Brittany when he got kidnapped. Gilles was just 16 years old when he did that. As a reward for his noble deed, the king offered him land, which would allow him to acquire many properties for free. Thanks to this, his grandfather also received another ace up his sleeve, because now he could use this to broker a deal for an arranged marriage with one of the noble families of France. On November the 30th in 1420, his grandfather Jean de Craon managed to get him a wedding, and Gilles de Rais married on that day with Catherine de Thouars of Brittany. Catherine came from a wealthy family, but at the time a woman was not allowed to manage fortune and real estate, and that's why all the fortune and real estate would go to her husband, Gilles de Rais. Gilles and Catherine also had one child together named Marie, and she was born in the year 1433 or 1434. The exact date is not known. Gilles de Rais would serve as a military commander in the army of King Charles VII from the year 1427 till the year 1435. In the year 1429, Gilles would meet and fight along a well-known national hero of France called Joan of Arc. During their campaign, they would fight multiple battles against the English and their Burgundian allies. It is claimed that Gilles served as the right-hand man of Joan of Arc during the Battle of Jargeau, the Battle of Patay, and during the siege and liberation of Orléans. Thanks to the liberation of Orléans, King Charles VII would award Gilles with even more riches, and he would also award Gilles with one of the highest honors in the military, namely the title of Marshal. This honor was granted to him during the coronation of King Charles VII on the 17th of July in the year 1429. In 1435, Gilles de Rais retired from the military and returned to his estates. The relationship between Joan of Arc and Gilles de Rais is mostly exaggerated by people, and that's why we're going to take a look at the facts. Because when we start to take a look at the facts, we see that they were only mentioned together in 15th century sources of the battles in which they fought together. These sources do state that Joan and Gilles worked closely together during the battles, and that's why they probably called him the right-hand man of Joan of Arc. Even when we start to zoom in on everything, we can fairly say that the relationship was purely professional. They probably shared some laughs together just like all of us do with our co-workers, but nothing more than that. There are still some people that like to exaggerate their relationship by making up nonsenses, such as the idea that they were best friends even though there's literally zero evidence to back such a claim. A second thing that a lot of people claim is that Gilles de Rais was the bodyguard of Joan of Arc, which is also totally false, because her real bodyguard was a man named Joan de Arc. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's time to get into the juicy part of the story that we've all been waiting for. Why was Gilles de Rais called the devil-worshipping Baron? Gilles officially retired from the military in 1435, but in the year 1431 he already decided that it was time to go back to his estate and enjoy his life by spending his fortunes recklessly. Gilles did this by organizing enormous theater reenactments of the battles he fought in. Besides organizing, he would also pay for custom-made costumes for every actor that starred in the reenactment. Gilles also decided that entry, food and drinks were on the house. In this way, he made sure that every chair would be filled with happy theater guests. By doing this, Gilles made himself extremely loved by the peasants and common folk of France, but it would also become the start of his demise. His spending habits on theater plays, lavish clothes, good food and all the other things our mortal life has to offer made his family, and especially the family of his wife, extremely anxious and furious. 2 generations they built up a fortune which Gilles decided to burn away in a lifetime. When Gilles decided to build a chapel on his estate, his family decided that he had crossed the line too far. They asked the church to make sure that they would not recognize Gilles' chapel as part of the Holy Church, which would basically mean that the chapel was useless and unlawful in the eyes of God. The church listened to their plea and didn't recognize his chapel. Because of that, no holy man was allowed to preach in Gilles' chapel. And even though this was a strong message for Gilles to start changing his ways, Gilles decided again not to listen. He ordered a custom-made priest costume so that he could become his own priest. This was considered highly blasphemous by the church. To make it even more creepy, Gilles gave his self-proclaimed house of God the ominous name, the Chapel of Holy Innocents. This chapel was named after a couple verses from a gospel that tells us about the massacre of infants to prevent a newborn child of becoming a rival to the crown of King Herod. This story was written in Matthew 2, 16-18. It is also said that during this time, Gilles started to get himself involved in witchcraft and alchemy. Gilles became a student of the occult under the direction of a man named Francesco Prelati, who promised Gilles that he could help him regain his fortune by sacrificing children to a demon called Baron. Now that Gilles gained this task from the demon, he started with luring children towards his castle. Weeks went by and surrounding villages started to claim that their children started to disappear into thin air. But nobody would expect that the highly respected nobleman, and let's not forget, war hero, could be the perpetrator. How could a man like that become a Satanist? Legend tells us that Gilles started to get frustrated when he couldn't get fast results, and this would make him become even more sinister. The next sentences that I'm gonna say are not for the light of heart and contain graphic language. If that's something you would not like to hear, you can fast forward 20 seconds. To satisfy the demon named Baron, Gilles started raping, mutilating and torturing the young children. It is even said that he would pleasure himself while looking at their dead bodies. After trying all those horrible things, he would still not receive the fortunes he desired. And that's why it became time to officially sell his soul to the devil. But the devil wouldn't respond, and his financial problems didn't disappear. On May the 15th in the year 1440, Gilles de Rais would make a grave mistake that would lead towards his downfall. Gilles decided to kidnap a clergyman named Jean le Faron. He did this during a dispute at the church of Saint-Étienne de Mermorte. The kidnapping of a holy man was enough reason for the Bishop of Nantes to start an investigation into Gilles de Rais' crime and lifestyle. During these investigations, multiple investigators would uncover evidence of Gilles' horrendous crimes. And on the 29th of July, the bishop would release these findings to the secular court. These findings would then lead to a rescue operation, which would be led by Arthur de Richmond. With the help of his royal troops, he would free Jean le Faron on the 24th of August. This operation would also pave the way for the arrest of Gilles and his accomplices on the 15th of September. His arrest would be followed up by an investigation from the secular court. During these investigations, they would interrogate and use torture on Gilles' accomplices. These interrogation sessions would give the judges enough witness testimonies to establish the guilt of the accused. At first, Gilles would deny to committing any of the crimes he was accused of. This did not satisfy the court, so they decided that they would torture him into confession, and on the 21st of October, Gilles confessed to the court that he was guilty of committing all of the 49 crimes he was accused of. One of these accusations would claim that Gilles murdered between 80 and 200 children. Now that Gilles and his accomplices were proven to be guilty, it was time to decide what the punishment would be. And of course, the punishment would be death. Gilles de Rais and two of his accomplices, Henriette and Poitou, were hanged in Nantes on the 26th of October in the year 1440. Was this all true? And was he really a satanic baron? Many people would say yes, but there's also a fair amount of people that would argue that he was not. These people claim that Gilles was innocent and that he was framed by Duke Joan of Brittany and Bishop Malestroy. The evidence that they would provide is that Duke Joan of Brittany already sold land that was owned by Gilles 15 days before his trial. The second point that a lot of people make is that Gilles de Rais received a Christian burial and a grave inside the Notre Dame, which is something that not just anybody would get, and especially not a child-murdering Satanist, you would think. I want to thank you all for listening. See you in the next one, and remember, history is written in mystery.